Hi there folks, so this video is going to be on the introduction to Enter Sandman. So just the introduction. I'll make another video with the various parts from the main part of the song, but this is just the introduction. So it starts off with James Hetfield playing this riff. Now that starts off on the bottom open E string, followed by the 7th fret of the A string. That's played, well I actually would play that with my pinky, I'll explain why in a second. And then I've got my pinky on the 7th fret of the A string, my first finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and starting off with the open E, bottom E string. So the song's in E. So you play the bottom E string, followed by the 7th fret of the A string, then the 5th fret of the D string, and then you play the 6th fret of the bottom E string, and then the 5th fret string, and then finish off on the 7th fret of the A string again. So I'm keeping my pinky in place here the whole time I'm playing this riff to let it kind of ring out. Now I did see a video that suggested that James Hetfield actually plays that keeping both this note held down with his pinky, that's the 7th fret of the A string, but also this note, the 5th fret of the D string, held down by his second finger, and then uses his third finger and first finger to play the 6th and 5th frets on the bottom E string. And the guy who made this short video then showed a picture of James Hetfield doing exactly that. So I'm assuming that is actually how he plays it, but I find that quite awkward. And also it's quite hard when you're playing these not to kind of interfere with the other strings, but they do ring out. So basically I'm keeping my pinky on here so that that note rings out through the whole riff. So it's not kind of, there are strings ringing, so you do need to hold them down. So if you're able to do that, pinky on the 7th fret of the A string, second finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and then use these two fingers, second finger for the 6th fret, sorry, third finger for the 6th fret of the bottom E string, first finger for the 5th fret of the bottom E string. There are definitely strings ringing out. Like I say, he showed a picture of James Hetfield fretting it exactly like that. But like I said, I find that kind of quite difficult, so I'm just going to hold it here. So basically you keep your pinky on. Now I'd say that the key to this riff is the first note and the last note. The first note is actually played before the beginning of the bar. So if you're counting it 1, 2, 3, 4, the first note comes after the 4th count, but before the start of the next bar. So on the and, so if you count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that's where you're hitting that bottom note. Now that note is a full crotchet, a full length note, followed by 3 quavers, half notes, those 3 notes, then another full crotchet, full note on the 5th fret, and then that last note, which is the second thing that you need to get right, is only half a beat and goes back immediately into the open E. So it's, so that one's longer, and then quick change from the 7th fret to the open string. And you play that 12 times, basically. And as you're playing that 12 times, the 5th time you play it, the other guitar, which I'm assuming must be Kirk Hammett, does this. Now, if you've got a wah-wah pedal like I do, that's easy enough to do. You can kind of do the old sheet wah, wiggle the tone knob, because it's what a wah-wah pedal does, but it definitely sounds better with a wah-wah pedal. And that is played on the beginning of the 5th time you play the riff and the beginning of the 9th time you play the riff. Now that is holding down with your pinky the 7th fret of the A string, the 5th fret of the D string, you're playing the open E, and everything else is open. So that's an E and a G, which are both part of an E minor chord. So that's a version of an E minor chord. I thought actually it was this. It was a bar chord, an A minor bar chord up on the 7th fret, which is an E minor chord. And then I was watching Mr. Tabs, who's a great channel to watch if you ever want to learn any songs. If you go to Mr. Tabs' YouTube channel, he's got lots of songs with the tab on it. Showed him doing that. And that sounds right, because it just kind of rings out. So now after doing that 12 times, you then start doing another riff. This riff is made up of quavers, so 8 notes across 4 beats in a bar. So they're half notes, and you do 8 notes, and the first 7 notes are just the open E string, bottom E string, and the 8th note is the 7th fret of the A string. Perhaps I'll change my guitar sound to something a bit heavier. Now, you probably should be sliding, but I find that quite... So you should slide, but if you don't want to slide, or you find the slide quite hard to do, I would tend to just kind of cut corners at this point and maybe not do the slide. But anyway, so you're doing 8 hits, 7 of which are the bottom note of the bottom E string, muted, so you're resting this part of your wrist. That's not your wrist, that's it. This part of your hand, the palm of your hand, across the bridge, so the notes are deadened, like that. But that note isn't deadened, and you probably want to check a bit of vibrato. So I'm getting the hang of the slide thing. It does sound kind of right, so it probably is kind of how you should do it. But anyway, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you do that 8 times. Sorry, you do that 4 times, 4 bars. 8 times each bar, 4 bars of playing that bit of the riff. At the same time, the other guitar, which I think is Kirk Hammett, plays a E power chord and just holds it for those 4 bars. The other guitar playing, and it just holds that down for 4 bars. So a count of 16. And then the riff changes for another 4 bars. This time what you're going to do is you're going to go 2 open E's, then play the 7th fret of the A string, and then immediately play the 6th fret of the bottom E string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 more bottom E strings, 5, 6, 7, and then you're going to play a 2-finger power chord, or using your first finger to hold down the bottom string on the 1st fret for an F, and your 3rd finger or pinky to hold down the 3rd fret of the A string for a C, to give you an F power chord. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the 8 notes in that riff, 4 bars of that. At the same time, the other guitar plays another power chord and holds it down over those 4 bars. So it's 1 hit and then hold it for 16 beats, 4 bars. Okay? Now, at the end of that series of riffs, the rhythm, the other guitar player, the Kirk Hammett bit, plays 2 A chords. And you can hear on the backing track the drums, not the backing track, sorry, the actual track, the drums do 2 hits along with that. So it's kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then back into another E bar chord. That's the rhythm guitar, whilst the main guitarist is going. Now at this point we're going to add another note, just 1 more note to that pattern. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 2 hits on the bottom E string, your 7th fret of your A string, followed by the 6th fret of your bottom E string and the 5th fret of your bottom E string. So you chuck that 1 note in, which means that you've then only got 2 bottom E open notes before you do the power chord. So it's exactly the same as the riff before it, but 1 extra note. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it does that 8 times. Now, whilst it does that 8 times, the rhythm guitar is going to go. So playing an open E power chord, but when the other guitar goes, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're playing that. Now they're power chords along with on the other guitar. So the power chord would be 6th fret of the bottom E string, 8th fret of the A string, and then down a fret to the 5th fret of the bottom E string and the 7th fret of the A string. So that's a B flat followed by an A. So that's... whilst you're playing. The second guitar doesn't do the F, it's just the first guitar does the F. Does the 8 times, and then that's you into the... which is the main riff, which we'll come back to in the next video. So that is the introduction to Enter Sandman.